Dean, thank you very much indeed for joining us here today in this beautiful, wonderful, gorgeous castle that I do not want to leave tomorrow. To be honest with you, I think I might stay here for the rest of the year. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, how have you joined this wild, fantastical world of RuneScape?
Okay, I've worked in games pretty much since I left school, covered over 140 titles, and I didn't have an MMORPG under my belt, so I wanted the biggest challenge, so I come to work for RuneScape.
So this was a bucket list type thing. You just wanted to tick that off?
No, it was an amazing game. It had amazing pedigree, and it's the biggest sort of UK independent developer, which is what I like. Worked mainly for publishers beforehand. So.
Okay, did you come on board specifically for the content development role, or was it, did you work your way up?
Yeah, indeed. I actually started in QA. I love QA a bit too much. Stayed there for pretty much 10 years in the career, but I thought it was time for a change. Actually wanted to get involved, shaping it without doing too much design and stuff. So.
I was going to say, so an interesting thing during the presentation there, I mean, there's such an emphasis on RuneScape, which is beautiful, about it's community-driven almost. It's community is such a big thing. So oddly enough, you're saying about you wanted to shape it, but I guess you always have to pay a sort of thought that it's not just me, it's this huge crowd of people who have been with the series for like over the last 10 years.
Indeed, I have to leave my own wishes to be an overpowered warrior at home when I come to work. Like I say, what we do is we want to give the players the tools and the framework so that they take their adventure and in the direction they want. To what ends, we don't know yet. So,
okay. So RuneScape 3, what are you doing? Fold that out for us.
RuneScape 3, I'll start with the technological advancements. I mean, we're moving to HTML5. Now, this really sets us apart from any browser game you'll see out there. Bleeding edge technology, you'd have seen the dynamic shadows, dynamic lighting, new color palette. We're going to have our own audio engine, separate from the main engine, with audio dedicated servers to stream this. So it doesn't matter if you've got a bit of a weaker PC that can't run your crazy Crysis and whatnot, but you can play high fidelity gaming with vast amount of hours there. So.
Was this a checklist you guys have had running for years now? Is this a wish list of things you wanted to see happen and now you finally got to this point?
We've always got a wish list at Jagex. I mean, since I've been there 5 years, we always push ourselves year on year to do a bigger and better thing. This was all about being the year of the player. So whilst they had the technology, this is the time. We could have done it previously with our weekly iterations, but from the technology standpoint, we don't think we would have done it justice. I mean, the gods are returning to RuneScape. The player is the world guardian. We needed the technology to be there to sort of support their choices.
Okay. And we talking, is this an overhaul of pretty much everything? This is almost built from the ground up again?
I wouldn't say it's an overhaul so much. You'll see some of the assets you know and love if you played RuneScape on the Java client. Like I say, we'll keep both clients running. You'll have your Java and your HTML5. We're not looking to sort of price people out of the game. I mean, you'll still be able to play this on your old technology with a really low connection as well. It is phenomenal what you can do with it. So.
Can you give us some examples of what players you could expect to see in RuneScape 3?
No 15-tile draw distance anymore. You'll be able to see the vast deserts. I mean, you'll be able to see mountains. You might even see distant figures of who knows what in there. And you'll just want to start your adventure and start walking towards this. You'll see the, like I say, the real-time reflections is my personal favourite. The dynamic lighting as well. We've got a skybox now. Players will be able to look up at the sky for once. It's really sort of just framing such a neat package with what a modern-day gamer would expect.
Because again, as I said during the presentation, about there is that expectation people maybe look upon this as a browser-based game and differentiate that perhaps unfairly negatively against a AAA title. But you guys feel like this is bringing on board that you now have the visual fidelity to turn around and go, no, recognize us as this AAA just because you're playing it in its sort of different format than other titles?
Yeah, indeed. Many companies and gamers alike probably just snub us because we are through a browser. You expect so much more. But I'll ask probably all of you to try and find a interface customization in real time that is as diverse as ours and as customizable as ours as well. I mean, we have just taken something that some people do half-heartedly, should I say, taking it to the next level. And it's not just about the putting the story in the player's sort of hands. It's about putting that interface. I mean, I've played many games and I think I'd just like to move that over to the right. The players can now do that as long as determine their narrative path through the adventure.
In fact, it's incredibly surprising no one has done it up till now.
Yeah, indeed. This is I've been asking everyone I can. I've been playing everything I can to try and find an interface like this. And like I said, I played a game last night, and I was actually getting quite wound up that I couldn't move the interfaces to the level that RuneScape is offering with RS3.
Now, RuneScape's been going, like we said, for years and years and years, but it's quite interesting. You guys have sort of said this is like your first big global event that you're running. Is that a case of you feel like you're taking that massive step forward, or do you think it's just continuing along with the pedigree that you've had these last few years, but you're just getting a wider audience now?
I think even when I first joined here, Jagex has been quite modest, and we let the product do the talking. I think something this big does need to be spoken about, though. The world does need to hear about. They slate HTML5 technology and gaming going to 2013. We're doing it this year, just because that is Jagex, bigger, better, and pushing the browser like space, but before anyone else. It is what Jagex has always done.
And with HTML5, did you guys see the tech first and think that would be a great transition point, or was it a case of you're looking for the transition point first and then this came up?
Yeah, I mean, our engine guys are crazy. I mean, they're always looking at the next boundary. They're trying to go beyond what the technology is actually capable at the time. So when this came along, they were ready for it. That's why we're so far ahead of the curve on this one. It's always the way with the tech.
Well, how have you found it actually utilising it? I mean, is it very developer friendly?
That's probably not one for me. I'm not the most technical standpoint, but what we're doing on it is phenomenal. Like I say, our turnaround time from content development perspective isn't affected, hence why we're going to be able to do this huge narrative arc over years to come where the player can decide, and we'll be able to change that, and not just what I call silly changes with just two options, one fork. You know, we're talking mass game-changing things, and we're going to have to do a hell of a lot of work to get that in the game as well. So.
Well, let's talk about that. The idea is that basically any player action now will impact the game. What does that actually mean? What do we actually see in the game?
That could be from picking up something on the floor to killing the most monstrous boss you've ever seen with hundreds of like-minded followers. Now, obviously, you've got the gods, so there could be some faction elements in there as well. But it's not as basic as, like I say, just a faction war. You would have seen that on many games before. Do you know what I mean? Top the sides, people join one side, it becomes unbalanced, etc., etc., etc. We're looking potentially you could be doing a quest. The one choice in the quest could have this outcome. This. The way I like to liken it to is a butterfly effect. Every player's action could be a butterfly effect in the game.
And people will be able to clearly see this butterfly effect happening.
Maybe not instantly, like in real time, maybe so. I mean, we can make changes that quick to the game if we choose to, and some of the decisions or the actions the players take might determine that. However, some things are going to be lasting. I mean, they could, for instance, destroy something in the game if that's what they choose to do, and then we'll update the game graphically, gameplay, everything to match what they've just done to the game. So.
Like you said, the whole operating system you guys have of those weekly updates, this is not a thing where you've got 2 years down the line there will be some seismic event that will have a new area and a new boss. This is across the entire landscape of RuneScape.
Yeah, but that's not to say that you won't have your seismic events as well. Yeah. So even with the weekly updates, we might have something very big planned, the precipice of one of these changes throughout the 3-month period of these events and stuff. So.
Talk me through this with, obviously you can't tell me exactly what's going to be happening, but with the butterfly effects, have you guys got this mapped out somewhere? Is there a whiteboard in the office where you guys go, right, point A, point B, point C, these are the things we want to happen, and we sort of know roughly how that butterfly effect will change the world?
To a degree. I mean, the design team have been very careful. What they're doing is kind of, believe, like a rule set. So rather than outline the full actions, because then you will have a somewhat linear path, and then it will be them just sort of moving the signal points as to how they get to their end destination. This is the thing, it's all about the journey and how they get there. And this is what the design team are really trying to empower the player with and make them feel part of that and actually feel a relationship with the world, because they are the world guardians.
We're saying about the world, it's such a diverse world. I mean, you're saying that any player can go and find something that they enjoy. I find it interesting that certain players will do things that will have an impact on the wider world, I assume. So that will actually draw people into exploring the wider world rather than their just particular little corner of it?
Yeah, this is it. I mean, we got some people who just happily sit there and make arrows, you know, for the entirety of their sort of RuneScape career, if you like. Once they start finding out that these little actions might have an effect, we might actually change their game style, you know. We might see a skiller become a killer just because he doesn't want a certain god to rise from the ashes, so to speak, you know. It's a really interesting time, and we're really sort of playing on the emotions of the players and their desires as well, and sort of what makes them as gamers as well as people. So.
And the players, you expecting the players still to surprise you with their decisions and their choices and what they do in the game?
Yeah, our players always seem to surprise us, and the decisions, you may think this one's a given, this is going to go this way, and it doesn't, you know. And this is what I like. You can't pigeonhole a RuneScape player like you could, for instance, not in a derogatory term, but you take an FPSer, you know. It's quite similar across the board, but a RuneScape player is that diverse. It's more of the mood that the user's in as opposed to the mood of the game.
Now, with newcomers, we talk about RuneScape, the legacy and everything like that. This is great for people who have been here for years, but for someone that wants to pick it up for the first time, I mean, is this the perfect jumping on point? Is there going to be a welcome wagon for them to enjoy and learn everything about this world?
That'd be cool. I mean, we've done a lot of work updating our early game experience. So if you're a new user to RuneScape, we've got you covered there. It'll be a nice light introduction. You'll pick up the core principles. With the coming of the age as well, it doesn't matter that you haven't played for the last 10 years. You'll be able to be directly involved with this. Within, I'd say, a couple of hours, you'll be in there taking part, and your actions will be determining the future of RuneScape. So it's a good time to get on board right now. So.
I think that's all the time we've got, though. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us.
No problem. Thank you very much.